The future of martial arts film was previously referred to as Tony Jaa. He astounded everyone with his unvarnished and genuine acts, from Ong-Bak to Tom-Yum-Goong. Behind the scenes, his narrative took a completely different path, one that was full of pressure, treachery, and decisions that permanently altered his career, even if it appeared unstoppable. Why do so many admirers consider Tony Jaa's journey to be completely devastating, and what actually happened to him? Come explore the career, legacy, and ascent of a man who revolutionized action filmmaking. Don't forget to subscribe and like so you don't miss the next post. Fame from Fields. Surin Province, a tiny region of Thailand, is where Tony Jaa was raised. Rice was grown on the area where his family resided. Thong Dayum and Rinsipe, his parents, put in hard days in the fields. They planted, tended, and harvested rice according to the season, leading a consistent life. The weather, the demands of the farm, and routine chores molded the days. Busy streets and flashing city lights were absent. And no neighboring movie theaters. Best to the bone, but, now. Yes, I do look my best. Tony was accustomed to this calm, stable life. But in little ways, the world outside the fields reached him. The communities were visited by temple fairs. People attended plays and movies at those fairs. Tony looked at images of heroes and warriors on the large displays. Bruce Lee caught his attention. Chan Jackie and Lee Jet. He had never witnessed such movement in his own hamlet before, but those men did. Their quickness, agility, and daring maneuvers stuck in his memory. Tony experienced a new emotion when he watched them. To him, they were more than just actors. They were models of beauty and strength in movement, in his opinion. Later, he remarked, "I wanted to do it too because it was so heroic and beautiful." Following his viewing of those movies, Tony started to imitate what he saw. He used the rice paddies to practice flips, punches, and kicks. He did the same movements over and over for hours until his body began to recall them. The fields served as his training ground. Teachers from large schools were absent. Mirrors and contemporary training aids were absent. What he possessed was a strong will and pictures of the heroes he looked up to. Tony entered martial arts for the first time at the age of 10. He began Muay Thai training at the nearby temple. This was no state-of-the-art fitness center. Older fighters and local masters provided the instruction. They knew the sport from experience rather than from books. He learned basic posture, strikes, and the discipline required for daily training from them. Strict and physically demanding, the training matched the rigorous work he was accustomed to from his time on the farm. As his strength increased, Tony started competing in little local bouts. Frequently, these battles were direct and hard. They put his body and will to the test. With every battle, he learned a little more about focus, timing, and suffering. A young warrior who practiced in a modest temple and moved with obvious intent gradually gained attention from those in the neighborhood. All that followed was shaped by Tony's formative years in Surin. Discipline, talent, and a strong desire to surpass what his environment had in store for him. You will then discover how a fortuitous encounter transformed his life irrevocably. Imprisoned in the dark. Tony Jaa met a man who would completely transform his life, and his life took a drastic turn. That man was Pana Ridikrai, a renowned Thai stuntman and filmmaker. Pana had already established a reputation for creating thrilling and perilous action scenes. He recognized something unique in Tony when he observed his innate talent, his quickness, and his unwavering commitment. Tony was asked to join Punna's stunt squad. For Tony, this was his first foray into the film industry. He saw it as a chance to go closer to his childhood ideal of being like the heroes he had idolized. The life of a stunt squad was anything but glamorous. Tony spent the following 14 years working as a background actor and stunt duplicate. It was his responsibility to do the things that actors were either unwilling or unable to do. High jumps, perilous falls, and combat scenes were all part of this, and any mistake may result in severe harm. Viewers would applaud the stars as they saw the completed movies, but Tony was the one risking his life behind the scenes. One of his most iconic early career exploits demonstrated the extent of his self-discipline. In a commercial, Tony had to jump on top of an elephant and grip its tusks as it walked. Tony finished it even though the timing and balance needed for this were nearly impossible. Both physical strength and complete focus were required for this type of labor. Though he accumulated innumerable sprains, bruises, and ailments over time, he hardly ever voiced complaints. Every grueling fall was a necessary step in the journey for him. Tony was trying his hardest, but not many people recognized who he was. The performer he was double for was nearly always given credit. Tony remained hidden while others relished the attention. These years weren't wasted, though. Quietly, he was developing the abilities that would someday astound the world. He had timing instincts, precision, and flawless body control thanks to his stunt career. That could not be taught in classrooms. Every long day on set, every risky stunt, and every battle scene taught us something. After 14 years, Tony had developed into more than just a stuntman. The moment was closer than anyone had anticipated, and he was prepared for his opportunity. Tony would soon emerge from the background and take center stage with a movie that would be impossible to miss. Nobody anticipated it. Tony Jaa finally got the chance he had been anticipating in 2003. He was granted the main part in Ong-Bak, Muay Thai warrior after years of supporting stunt work. Most viewers had never seen anything like this movie before. No stunt doubles were used to replace him, no wires were used to drag him into the air, and no computer effects were used to add drama to the maneuvers. Every kick, flip, each punch. Tony himself fell. What spectators were witnessing was years of focused training translated straight onto the screen in the form of unadulterated physical ability. The filming method was both amazing and risky. Tony's physique was forced to do several of the actions in Ong-Bak well beyond its typical capabilities. Throughout production, he sustained multiple injuries, injured his ankle, and tore ligaments. Every time, he forced himself to get better fast and carry on. Being aware that this was his only opportunity to establish his worth. When Tony was fighting attackers, one of the riskiest scenes was when his pants were set on fire. There was no control over this computerized effect. Real fire was consuming his body. As the flames swiftly expanded, they singed his lashes, eyebrows, and even portions of his nose as they reached his face. While most would have stopped right away, Tony continued. He continued to perform despite the pain, completing the take because he recognized the scene's significance for the film. To make it even more dramatic, the crew had to reshoot the scene in order to get it just perfect. Tony took it all without question. The response to Ong-Bak's release was intense. Viewers from all over the world were in a state of shock. The fighting was intense, quick, and raw, lacking the polished look of many martial arts films at the time. Individuals could see the risk in every trick and feel the force of every blow. Fans and critics instantly started drawing comparisons between Tony Jaa and icons like Jet Li, Jackie Chan, and Bruce Lee. A few even went so far as to refer to him as the next Bruce Lee, a designation reserved for people who really upended the martial arts community. For Tony, this movie was the turning point that turned him from an unknown stuntman into a global celebrity. Tony wasn't done, though. The stakes would be higher and he would push things even further in his next film. The stakes were raised when Tony Jaa had to demonstrate that his first hit wasn't the result of pure luck following the success of Ong-Bak. Together with Tom-Yum-Goong, who was distributed globally as The Protector, he returned in 2005. In addition to raising the stakes in every manner, this movie allowed Tony to showcase a fresh aspect of his ingenuity and affinity for Thai culture. Elephants are crucial to the plot because they are deeply significant in Thailand. People take pride in the fact that elephants are regarded as a national symbol. They have a connection to the nation's spiritual beliefs, history, and customs. In the movie, Tony's character goes to Australia to save his cherished elephants from being abducted. He was able to convey Thai cultural identity to viewers around the world while simultaneously gaining a powerful emotional purpose from this straightforward plot. Tony even created a brand new fighting technique specifically for the movie, in addition to including elephants into the plot. His grappling techniques and attacks, which he dubbed the Muay Thai elephant style, were strong, heavy, and uncompromising, much like elephants. This gave the action a heritage-based quality in addition to being exciting. A scene that went down in action movie history as a classic was one of the movie's best moments. Inside a restaurant, Tony moved from the bottom level to the top for a continuous 4-minute fight sequence. It was imperative that every kick, throw, and punch be flawless because the camera never cut away. Tony battled scores of opponents along the way, displaying amazing endurance and using his surroundings as weapons. It seemed as though he was advancing through a series of challenges, with each adversary getting harder than the one before. Upon his ascent, audiences were left speechless, aware that they had witnessed something entirely different. Tom-Yum-Goong's influence was enormous. It solidified Tony's standing as a forward-thinking filmmaker as well as a martial artist. He was doing more than simply reciting Ong-Bak's method. He was advancing the genre with his audacious concepts and unparalleled performance. Not even other martial arts celebrities paid attention. In an interview, Donnie Yen, one of the most well-known figures in the business, acknowledged that he felt compelled to improve his own fight choreography after seeing Tony Jaa. Just that statement demonstrated the extent of Tony's work's impact in such a short period of time. Tony Jaa had demonstrated his versatility with Tom-Yum-Goong. He came to alter martial arts movies forever. However, as recognition grew, so did the pressures, and fractures were beginning to appear behind the scenes. Betrayal behind fame. Following the release of Tom-Yum-Goong and Ong-Bak, Tony Jaa was no longer merely another martial artist attempting to establish himself. He had taken on the role as the face of Thai martial arts film, bearing the burden of both international expectations and national pride. More films that pushed the boundaries, more risky stunts, and more amazing action were what audiences desired. Tony was under increasing pressure with each victory. Each new endeavor had to be greater than the last in terms of size, speed, and spectacle. There were artistic challenges in addition to the physical ones. Tony was becoming more active in directing the movies in addition to acting in them. He was unaccustomed to this degree of responsibility, and it started to wear him down. His connection with his guru, Panna Rittikrai, presented one of the most difficult obstacles. Tony was found by Panna, who also coached and mentored him in the film industry. Tony brought the action to life while Panna directed it for years as they collaborated side by side. However, the disparities in their worldview developed along with Tony's notoriety. Regarding creative direction, they started to dispute, especially over the kinds of projects Tony ought to take on. Following arguments between them, one eagerly awaited project, a movie called Sword, was shelved. Rumors of conflict between the mentor and the student started to circulate, and fans were never able to witness what may have been. Despite the fact that Panna and Tony did not discuss their falling out in public, it was obvious that something had changed. Meanwhile, prospects outside of Thailand were starting to materialize. A personal attempt was made to introduce Tony to Rush Hour 3 by Jackie Chan, one of his childhood heroes. Tony may have had a life-altering opportunity to enter Hollywood and appear on screen with a world-renowned figure. The time, however, was not feasible. Tony had already committed to producing the huge Thai production Ong-Bak Tuesday. Loyalty and commitments forced him to decline the offer. This seemed like a lost opportunity to elevate his career to a new level to many fans. Although they were minor at first, these fissures, the rising expectations, the conflict with his mentor, and the lost opportunities marked the start of a challenging time in Tony Jaa's career. One of the most significant changes in Tony's career would soon follow as a result of those stresses pushing him over the edge. Collapse on location. Ong-Bak 2 was Tony Jaa's next significant task following 2 hit movies. His ability to handle a bigger production and demonstrate his skills as a filmmaker in addition to his fighting prowess were the goals of this project. With its grandiose sets, intricate battle choreography, and larger stunts, the movie was ambitious. However, things were anything but easy behind the camera. Chaos soon erupted in the manufacturing. Schedules got strained, budgets increased, and demand mounted from all directions. More responsibility than ever before had fallen on Tony, and the consequences started to show. It took a startling turn in the middle of filming. Out of nowhere, Tony vanished from the set. For weeks, no one was aware of his whereabouts. He had reportedly taken refuge at a Buddhist monastery. The action generated countless rumors. According to some, the tension had caused him to have a mental collapse. Others thought he was just worn out from years of pushing his body and spirit to the maximum, both emotionally and physically. Whatever the cause, his abrupt withdrawal cast doubt on Tony's ability to carry on and left the movie's future uncertain. After some time, Tony came back to complete the project. Ong-Bak 2 was finished and published. Even while it featured his incredible talent and included violent fight scenes, the film overall felt erratic. The finished product was a clear reflection of the challenges behind the scenes. While many fans observed that the tale was disorganized and that Tony's work lacked the vigor that had previously characterized it, some fans appreciated the action's intensity. Ong-Bak 3 did not make things better. Directly following the events of the second movie was the sequel, but by this point, the issues from the first production were a major concern. His earlier work had a flair and excitement that the film lacked. Although there was still movement, it seemed to be more subdued, slower, and less inspired. It was clear to the audience that Tony was exhausted. Something that had once been new and fiery now felt more like a duty than a passion. Everyone was surprised by what transpired next. Tony actually left the movie industry and went into a monastery, escaping to the temple. In 2010, Tony Jaa made a decision that nearly everyone was startled by, following years of pressure, stress, and constant physical abuse. He left the motion picture business to join a Buddhist monastery. He was formally ordained as a monk there. For someone who had been in the public eye, pulling off risky pranks, and representing an entire business, this was a significant shift. His days were now spent in prayer, meditation, and basic rituals within the temple rather than lengthy filming and taxing action scenes. Tony's decision represented more than just a career hiatus. It was a getaway. At that time, he had been subjected to studio demands all the time. The strain of being regarded as the future of martial arts film, as well as the fatigue of making Ong-Bak 2 and 3. Both physically and mentally, he had been pushed to the limit. Inside the shrine, life allowed him to breathe. It gave him a sense of calm and quiet that he couldn't get on a movie set. It was a means for a man who had endured years of stress to recover and regain equilibrium. This was a common decision in Thailand. The custom of temporary ordination is revered. A lot of Thai men have been monks at some point in their lives. It only lasts a few weeks for some people. For others, a few months. It is regarded as a means to honor one's family, acquire merit, and contemplate life. For Tony, it was also about leaving the chaos that had encircled him for so long. His decision was recognized as a component of a spiritual journey in Thai culture. He wasn't just going back to watching movies when he got back. A new chapter in his personal life was also embarked upon. Following his departure from the monastery, Tony Jaa gradually started to regain a sense of normalcy. His world had been surrounded by cameras, risky antics, and constant pressure from the motion picture business for years. But in 2012, he made a significant personal life decision that brought him something quite distinct from notoriety or material success. He was married. Paragchotawatan, Tony's lifelong girlfriend, was his wife. She had been with him before to the height of his global reputation, and their bond was based on familiarity and trust rather than the limelight of fame. The focus of their wedding was not publicity or Hollywood attention. It was about establishing a fresh chapter and stability. Tony and Parrot had a child shortly after. 2 daughters were born into their family together. Tony was given a role he had never played before as a father. One in which he was more focused on raising a family than on action sequences. Following years of traveling for movies and risking his life for his work, this aspect of his life provided him with a sense of purpose and intimacy. There was more to his life than what fans or studios wanted, as his kids served as a reminder. Tony seems to have discovered the equilibrium he was looking for a while. He had moved past the pressure of continuous productions and the burden of being viewed as the next Bruce Lee. Rather, he was spending time with his wife and girls, creating a stable and quiet family life. He was at ease throughout this time, according to friends and co-workers. In contrast, he had been enmeshed in the tumult of challenging productions and public rumors in the previous years. But there was a secret battle that accompanied that return, one that encompassed contracts, control, and heartache. The chains of studios. A reality that many fans were unaware of was the driving force behind Tony Jaa's ascent to fame as a worldwide action icon. He was associated with one of Thailand's largest studios, Sahamongkol Film, from the start of his career. Initially, this collaboration appeared to be a chance. The studio provided him with the means to produce the films that made him famous, Ong-Bak and Tom-Yum-Goong. However, the achievement was concealed by a contract that gave Tony little authority over his own career. Tony was unable to work on films outside of the studio due to the exclusivity arrangement with Sahamongkol. Without getting their consent, they made decisions about his work schedule, the assignments he took on, and even his pay. Security was pledged by the studio in return. They also assisted in supporting his family, which was very important in Thai culture. Supporting parents and family members is a responsibility. And Sahamongkol utilized that duty to maintain his connection to them. His independence was soon encircled by a chain that initially appeared to be protection. This control comes at a high cost over time. Tony wanted to grow, play a variety of parts, and collaborate with foreign filmmakers. But most of those opportunities were thwarted by the document. He was stranded in Thailand working on sequels and studio projects, even though the world was clamoring for him following his early pictures. This was annoying for an artist who had already displayed amazing inventiveness with his fighting method. His career was being constrained by the limitations of a contract more than a lack of skill. Tony made the decision to separate by 2013. He felt he had to take advantage of the opportunity before it was too late since Hollywood was contacting him. However, Sahamongkol was unwilling to let him go. The studio took legal action against him when he attempted to appear in Fast and Furious 7. They even sought damages of $50 million, which was so high that it startled the industry. Tony faced significant challenges as the lawsuit continued to drag on. Although everyone expected Tony to thrive when Hollywood eventually opened, the reality was quite different. Hollywood's hollow pledge. Tony Jaa entered a new stage of his career after leaving the Thai studio structure, and Hollywood began to take note. Among the major international films he starred in were Return of Xander Cage, 7 and XXX, and Fast and Furious. He co-starred on those projects alongside fellow martial artists like Donnie Yen and celebrities like Vin Diesel. Many people saw Tony's appearance with well-known celebrities as evidence that he had made it on the worldwide scene. What transpired demonstrated how the Thai films that made him famous can differ from the global cinema system. Tony's roles were frequently smaller and emphasized action over character in Hollywood productions. He wasn't often given lengthy conversation or in-depth character development, but he was requested to perform important fight scenes and showpieces. He usually only used his screen time for set pieces where his athletic prowess was most important. The audience was still able to observe his speed, balance, and accuracy when he moved. Those incidents served as a reminder of his stardom. Nevertheless, these moments of genius were set within longer films in which he did not play a central role in shaping the plot or the feelings. It was frequently said that Tony's linguistic barriers prevented him from advancing in Hollywood and that his English prevented him from landing more important roles. There is more to the story than that explanation. By 2014, Tony was speaking English in interviews and navigating media appearances with increasing assurance. It was not primarily a language barrier. The bigger problem was how action stars are used in foreign productions. A guest star's options are frequently restricted by production procedures, franchise regulations, and casting decisions. There are several teams in charge of fight choreography and on-set judgments. Thus, a performer who was previously free to express himself creatively in Thailand would find himself restricted overseas. The outcome was conflicting. Tony continued to provide great action on screen. The parts he was offered and the industry systems off-screen altered how he might be portrayed to the public. In addition to seeing talent and moments of genius, they also witnessed a fantastic performer being given less opportunities to take the lead under different rules. The flame-fading Tony Jaa's career never reached the spectacular heights of the early 2000s, despite his continuing work after he broke free from Sahamongkol. Alongside other martial arts celebrities including Iko Uwais, Scott Adkins, and Tiger Chen, he starred in the ensemble action movie Triple Threat. He also appeared in a number of Western productions, such as Skin Trade, Never Back Down, No Surrender, and others. These films allowed him to showcase his abilities to a global audience, and in each one, his quickness and physical prowess reminded viewers why he was once heralded as the next great martial arts star. However, despite these initiatives, something felt off. The electricity that Ong-Bak and Tom-Yum-Goong had generated was not caught by any of them. Although the choreography was well done, there was a lack of intensity. The sensation of witnessing something that had never been seen before, the fearless stunts, and the violent inventiveness were all connected to the special circumstances of his Thai productions. It was not possible to fully restore that unadulterated and unrefined approach in Western movies, where safety regulations, budgets, and choreography teams influenced every motion. Tony Jaa has not starred in any Thai production since 2013, which is a startling fact. He was no longer shown in the nation's cinema, which had brought him from a rice field in the country to the world screens. This is partially due to the legal disputes and animosity with Saham Uncle, which caused doors to close at home. It is ironic because Tony enjoyed the greatest creative control and freedom in Thailand. But those opportunities were lost, and he frequently found himself working in supporting roles overseas, where he was subject to systems that offered him much less control over the presentation of his characters or the way combat scenes were filmed. A tragic contrast resulted from this. The journey of Tony Jaa, a farmer's son who changed the martial arts film industry and inspired millions, demonstrated that hard work might produce something truly remarkable. However, contracts eventually burn out. And the global industry structures changed that narrative. The fire had altered, but he was still active and able to move with strength and speed. The world was no longer engulfed in the Ong-Bak wildfire. Instead, it grew into a tiny, flickering flame that was no longer blazing at full intensity but was still alive. Don't forget to hit the bell icon, like, and subscribe if you liked this video so you don't miss any more.